My name is Lori Winkleman. I work with VitaPlus. I'm based out of Appleton, and Finger Family Farm is located near Peshtigo, north of Green Bay, here in Wisconsin. It is our distinct honor at VitaPlus to feature Finger Family Farm for the virtual farm tour this afternoon. It truly is a family operation, and today we have with us Jack and Nancy Finger, the fourth generation on the farm, Alana, the potential sixth generation on the farm, and then Laura and Phil. Phil and I have known each other for a few years. We were college classmates a number of years ago right here at UW-Madison. And don't hold it against Laura. She is an Iowa State grad, but certainly we'll take her here in the state as well. Now, I know you're all here to see what the Finger Family Farm has to offer, and we're so pleased you can join us. So I'll turn it over to Phil and Laura, who will be navigating the conversation this afternoon. And if you would, save your questions till the end so we can microphone them and have them repeated and go through. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to Phil and Laura.
Thank you, Lori. Lori is our nutritionist, so she's not just VitaPlus representing us. She also helps us on the dairy a lot. So we'd like to thank Lori and all of VitaPlus for sponsoring us this year. Jack and Nancy, daughter Alana, our two littlest kids, PJ and Alyssa, are with some relatives. I think it'd been kind of hard to give a presentation with them up here. And my beautiful wife, Laura, is helps us a lot at the farm. So I guess you want to say anything or get started? Let's get started. Let's get this party started, he says. You guys want to, you can stand up. So our current herd, we have a 31,635 rolling herd average as of September with 1,263 pounds of fat and 993 pounds of protein. Our next goal is to hit 1,000 pounds of protein, so maybe next month we'll hit that. We typically run a 3.9% fat. We're generally over 100 pounds per cow. We're always right there. During the summer months, we're average 95 to 100, but we'll be hopefully once it comes winter or even this fall, be over 100 again. We typically run a 3.15% protein. Starting the fall coming up, I would expect to be over 3.2. Again, usually 6 months of the year we are over 3.2. So even with a lot of milk, we do get components. Our cell count is generally under 150,000. The summer months, it hits over, but we generally average under 150. Like I said, we attained 100 pounds last January of 2013. We have 592 milking cows, well, milking and dry, 530 replacements, all are raised on the farm, 75% registered, 100% identified, and have 1,000 tillable acres that are owned and rented. So, we have a couple cow families that are doing all right through genomics. We have my one cow, 2456, is an old man. My wife says, I prefer this cow over her. Semi-true. She has daughters that I like working with, Alexander, Bolivar. So we are a 500 cow dairy, and I like cows, so I do know all of them and who their mom is, who their dad is. So we are kind of unique that way. So she has a son at IPS, Finger Planet Franz. We're hopefully excited that he'd come out with a decent proven proof. And then we have a super sire daughter that's over 2360 TPI, and a greatest daughter that we're flushing both of these, and a couple of younger ones that are coming up to have AI contracts too. So our farm history, we were established in 1872. The first generation came from Czechoslovakia. They farmed 40 acres. I had pigs, horses, chickens, dairy cows. Now in fifth generation, we kind of taking back some chickens, maybe a sheep, horses, you know. The second generation farmed pigs, chickens, fruit, and dairy cows. On the farm, we started registering Holsteins in 1912 and have continued that till this day. And began milk testing in 1919. Dad, you want to talk some?
The taller lady, fourth one from the end would be my grandmother, and the gentleman on her left is my grandfather. And when I took over the farm in '74, we still had milk cans. We had.
It looks like your microphone's on, so do you want to just push on there for us?
All right.
Thank you.
When I took over the farm in '74, we still had milk cans. We hauled milk to the cheese factory was about a quarter mile away. We hauled milk cans until about '81. No, about at '78. We had a pipeline in '81.
And partly hauling those milk cans, Jack always loaded them on the truck like this, and he needs 2 new knees right now.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. This is.
We used to. I was on the board of directors for the Wisconsin Feeder Pig Marketing Co-op in the '70s, and we used to show hogs. We once down here at State, and then it was a part-time job that was a little bit more than part-time. We're not all work. If you can read it, it says everybody's entitled to my opinion.
So in the tie stall, we get the Century Farm Award. Milking 80 cows, we had a rolling herd average, 24,495, fat 933, protein 743. And before we moved out, before a TMR, Dad was he'd be above 90 pounds of milk per cow. He hit it off and on, and he always had a good herd.
That's what we were talking about chickens before on the left, on the right side, or your left. We're building a chicken. It's not a chicken coop. It's a chicken sedan because it has more than 2 doors. It's 4 doors. And that's and then our new part, our freestall.
Yep. And so, Dad, what's your jobs on the farm right now?
My jobs on the farm right now is tell jokes, go for parts. I work a lot on the financing. I think one of my biggest part of the job was in 2009, keeping our equity together to where we lost only 4% of our equity, and that was a big deal.
So he does a lot of PR too. Dad's he's funny. He does a good job with the neighbors and our renters and a lot of that stuff. So Dad's, and then Mom, she does all the paying our bills, payroll. She's a lot of HR, which Laura and I don't really want to deal with. And she listens to our craziness when Laura and I come in the house and got some stories, whatever. Nancy's good for listening. So, and yep, so we're the 5th generation. Like I said, we continue registering Holsteins, and then for our wedding, I bought Laura a brown Swiss. And now there's like, I don't know, 6 of them or something. All they do is have heifer calves. So now we're able to do a little more embryo transfer, and we are doing probably about 90% of our calves are genomics. The ones I don't waste the money on it, bottom 10%. So more recent history, in 2000 when I was going to UW-Madison, I think Dad got a little worried about getting all the work done on the farm, so him and my mother went in a partnership with a a neighbor who also was doing really well on his tie stall. And so they went together and built a dairy and started milking 300 cows. So they made a double 12 parallel parlor, which is way overkill for 300 cows because I think it took like 3 hours to milk in the morning, 2.5 at night. So built a 6-row freestall barn with alley scrapers, mattresses, and sawdust bedding. So when I was at school, they took one of our fair cows, and Dad walked her across from our farm to the new barn and had all the cows follow her, and I did a little rodeo. So this is just the construction of the 6-row. So with the mattress bedding, it was like my great-great-grandmother, pretty bad times. She's probably a lot. Just like us. 65 pounds per cow, cell count that was continuously over 300,000. High call rate, 40% was nothing. Always had to buy cows. We lost out on some cow families, and it was a pretty bleak time, losing equity. So this always gets us choked up a little bit. Things were not working. It was hard to cash flow, losing equity. And in the opinion of two partners, a lot of you are married. You got different opinion from your wife or your spouse, right? So now you have, just difference of opinions from two partners. Not bad farmers, just difference of opinions. And so we had inadequate facilities for calves, heifers, dry cows, all in tie stall barns, and we said we used both partners' tie stall barns. And this eventually led to a partnership buyout. So in 2007, my dad's partner wanted to be bought out, or he says either buy me out or we're going to liquidate by have an auction. So thank goodness Dad knew it was my dream to have a farm. And,
so we had a good management team. Just after 2008, we had a good banker just behind us. We had a good nutritionist. We had a good lawyer. We had a good tax man that's been with us a long time. And the consultant, Dan Wenzel, was a really big help.
Yep, we had to thank, our BMO, or at the time M&I, Mr. Don Adams, stood behind us. He said, let's get a good dairy consultant, and we hired Dan Wenzel. And he says, let's start pushing a pencil, and in order to buy the partner out, we had to go from 300, we had to add cows. So, and the biggest change we needed to make was our attitude of everyone, employees and ourselves, and that cows come first. And Dad and I are pretty good cow people, according to my wife. So we had to make sure we really stuck it into the cows. So how we changed, we cleaned the house of negativity, old way of doing things are not working, and we focused on cow comfort, milk quality, feed quality, and raising heifers. So one of the first changes we did was cow comfort. So we converted the 6-row to sand bedding. We put right here, this is a ash 4x4. It was cheap. Instead of busting all the stalls out, we were losing equity before, so we didn't have a lot of cash. So we had to make changes that were fairly cheap. And so that was like an immediate change. We gained 16 pounds per day in like the first month. Cows in the mattresses, Dad would go count in 108 pen, 108.
There's 110 in a pen at the time. There'd be 27, 28, 29 cows standing, half in the stall on the mattresses, half out, would not lay down. We put in the sand. The next day when I counted cows, there was 3 standing.
So then we added the new addition, did a lot of touring, put a 4-row in with 14-foot sidewalls. The stalls were 8 foot long by 52 inches wide. And then we also really paid attention to feed quality, our timeliness of crops, really checking when is it budding, and really got out of that mindset of quantity and worked really hard at quality. We do moisture testing weekly. We have a nutrient management plan for all our crops. So here's the new addition. This is the 4-row attached to the 6-row, which is on the other side. A little bit of perching, 1 cow, I think, out of the whole group of 50. There's not a lot of perching. Nice 14-foot sidewalls. You can actually, during the summer, tell the difference just by walking 10 feet from the old 6-row to the new 4-row, how much cooler it is and breeze. And just a close-up. Like I said, it's 8 feet. The 6-row is only 7.5 feet long by the dimensions on the stalls were anywhere from 42 to 44. They range all over the place, so there's like no consistency. But these are, the new barn is all 52 inches wide. When we had to buy out a partner, I had to get all the dry cows out of his tie stall barn and into our 6-row. So we ripped out all the mattresses and the stalls in this part and just made a maternity pen. And we have barn cameras on there. We do have, when some of the expensive cows are calving, we check it at midnight and I come running out and hopefully save it or whatever. So other changes that we have made, we focused on herd health. We check fresh cows daily from 10 to 14. Just temping them, checking for ketosis, checking for DAs, anything else. We've actually done that since 2000 when we put the barn together. We are 100% AI breeding. When I came out of college, I started pre-sync and off-sync and went from every other week herd health to weekly, and that improved our herd health tremendously. Just this last spring, I went to double off-sync instead of pre-sync through the summer. Our preg rate is 22%, not extremely high, but that's not very low either, with a conception rate of 38%. Other changes we made, feed quality, like I said, really checking the budding. Dr. Lori Winkleman does a good job of saying, Lori, I'm thinking about cutting, what do you think? She says, Phil, cut it. We do amino acid balancing. All feed now is inoculated, and everything is covered with silo-stop vapor barrier. So I think before a couple years ago, I said, should we inoculate, Lori, everything? You know, and she's like, yes, Phil, everything. Just this spring, we bought Feed Watch. It's a cool program, still learning it. So it's fed to all animals over 4 months of age. Our main group of cows is fed 5 times through the day. And some are going to look at me like, why would you feed your cows 5 times a day? Isn't that a pain? No, I had a friend when he had a different job, and he wanted to drive a tractor, and he started feeding at night. So we fed, instead of once a day, we started feeding twice a day. And boom, we saw an increase in production and even percent fat. And I said, well, twice a day? How many times do I have to fill a mixer up for the main group? And it's 5 times. So let's feed them 5 times a day. So he drives by and feeds all the main group 5 times a day. Other changes we made, the manure management. So on the 300 cow dairy, we just had a 8-foot deep,
8 by 12 and about 250 feet long.
yeah, and that would last us about a month for hauling manure. And then we went to sand and 500 cows, and everybody knows that pit just fills up with sand, and it would last us about every other day. So the middle of winter, so for a couple of years we were hauling manure every day or every other day because tomorrow's Christmas, so you try and haul as much as you can today. And So as we put in sand and the cows started milking more and money, you start making improvements. So we put in a manure pit and an auger system and a big hool piston pump to pump the manure 600 feet. It's a long ways, but it can be done. So we got rid of the alley scrapers. We now use the skid steer for moving manure, and we buy gates in the shape of a skid steer. We also have infrared heating above our slats where the auger is. And at first I passed it off as I don't know if that was worth it or not. And that was actually Dad's idea to put the infrared heat in. And then I talked to one of the local farmers, and he's like, he has asked, Phil, how many times did you have to load up your manure and haul it out with the V-spreader this winter? I was like, oh, none. How many of you? He's like, I've been doing it for like 2 weeks. And I was like, so I guess that it keeps our slats open and they don't freeze up. So we didn't even have to haul out the dry cow, which is generally stiffer, and it all went down. So that's just our manure pit, our hool piston pump. And then we added my best change. My wife, my beautiful wife, she went to, it's not Madison, it's Iowa State. The Cyclones. We always had this debate of which college is better, but no, Iowa State's a very good college, and my wife knows a lot. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what she does.
Okay, I'm Phil's wife, unfortunately, or fortunately some days. He does love that cow more than me. We had a baby a couple years ago, another one of these babies, and we had to rush home from the hospital because he had that cow calving. He breeds her to freshen at the same time as me every year. Anyways, I manage the heifers, the parlor, and I primarily feed calves. We're working on our 4th child, and I think my days in the barn are getting kind of limited. So I'll just stick to feeding calves 6.5 days a week. Sounds good. On the top picture, we had triplet heifer calves 2 years ago. Here's proof that they don't have to look like the mom or each other. Got them on camera, and we were there when they were born. On the bottom, we have Chop Chop in a wood hutch. When we came into this, I said, we got to move calves out of that tie stall, and we're putting them in hutches. We had no money, so we just slapped together plywood hutches, and they have been the best thing since sliced bread. My second biggest improvement is I spent like $2,000 on that calf cart. It has saved my back. So if any of you are feeding calves, or you have your wives or your kids feeding calves, spend $2,000 and save their backs. Otherwise, I have to go to the chiropractor like every 2 weeks because you cannot feed 85 calves on milk with 5-gallon pails anymore. Our biggest change was when we went from the tie stall where the air blew from over the dry cows to the calves that were tied up. We had a 14% death loss, lots of respiratory disease, lots of treating for scours. It was just not a good deal, but we didn't have money to build a nice calf barn. So we did take them out to the hutches, like I said, and I guaranteed them my first year of getting hired for the job would be at like 8% or 10%, and we made it to 8%. I thought, okay, next year we'll try 5%. We got down to 3%, and now we're at 1.1. You know, sometimes I'm not happy with the survivors, though. You know, my father-in-law just said, just raise the survivors like your kids. I don't know. But yeah, you end up with some. You know, the brown Swiss, they maybe shouldn't survive, but they do. I attribute the success in raising calves to immediate dam and calf removal, so do not let that mom lick her off. And we only feed maternal colostrum to the calf, just with biosecurity. And if in doubt, feed colostrum replacer. You're not sure who it is? Feed colostrum replacer, get it in right away, and get them out to a dry hutch, and they'll do just fine. I also believe in feeding a full potential feeding program to all my heifers. You spend a lot of money up front, but it'll pay off in the end. And when we're gonna go back and talk about heifers a little bit, I told you, or Phil told you, we didn't have great facilities going into this. All of our heifers were outwintered and kept in lots. Hopefully no one from PETA is here, because this is not a good example of how to raise animals. But this is what we had to do. We had no money to do anything fancy, so we fed them out of feeder wagons with a bucket tractor. Very, very labor intensive.
Very overcrowded.
They were very overcrowded, very messy. You could clean that every other day and they just keep making more of it. So we finally were able to put up, on the bottom corner you'll see, put up a 3-sided bedded pack, and we thought this is gonna be the cat's meow. We outgrew that in like 3 months. So then the heifers are back outside again. And then we were like, well, we have to breed these heifers. How do we keep them in when they're outside? So we put up some headlocks with, your limited income, but it worked. So go on to the next one. Finally, we have come to our most recent change this year, where we are finally able to put up some nice buildings for heifers, get PETA off our backs. They haven't been here yet, but it does look nicer. They're a lot more comfortable. Human comfort, we cut down on labor. It's 2.5 hours to do 500 head of heifers a day. I mean, that saves you 1 employee. Sorry, you can stick with us. But the nice thing is headlocks for breeding, your cow management, anything that needs to be done to her, and again, sand-bedded stalls.
Yeah, we just built that this spring. It was just done in the beginning of August. So I know breeding animals has been a lot easier. Like I said, what we did to get it, our goal is always, when we started putting sand and everything, we always had goals, and it was to reach 100 pounds, reach 30,000, and attitude was a huge thing. Getting all our employees on the right page, getting the right people on our team. And this is a picture of our employees, and just goofing off. It was the hottest day this summer, and we're just kind of goofing off, and Laura says, let's take a picture. So just more employees putting in, doing various things. And like I said, the people around us, we surround ourselves with smart people, and that was a huge difference. And having a good assistant. We also do tours on the farm with schools and whoever, every Sunday driver who stops by, but that's fine. We do Facebook, we promote. Laura and I we all think it's very important there's going to be less and less agricultural kids, so we try and promote it to whoever we can. We still do hire, we have some Hispanics, but we also hire some high schoolers and try and get them interested in agriculture. So yes, we still do it the high school drama, but and I guess, is there any questions for us? Any?
Before we get into questions, let's give the Finger Family Farm here a nice round of applause. I told them before they got started this morning that there was no need to be nervous. Nobody knows the farm better than them. So certainly they've put together some good information for you this afternoon. So let's open up the floor for questions. Do we have any questions in the crowd? Yes, right here.
That Heifer barn you built, it seemed like it would have a lot of draft going through it.
Air ventilation is good.
In the wintertime, though,
It has curtains on the back. It has Rollomatic curtains. And yep, Rollomatic. So we have it in our 4-row barn, and we just absolutely love them. We go out to eat or something, come back and say, it's a little chillier at night, and we go and we just drop it down. You just go and drive right down the center and just hit a lever, and Rollomatic are fantastic.
We ordered them special that they would come up the bottom would come up at least halfway. So the wind out of the north or out of the west will go over the backs, over the tops. And you always got clean air in there.
So one of the things is when we were raising heifers, in some of our old facilities, we always had pneumonia problems. Always, that was like in our head, that was implanted up here. So we wanted as much air quality, and we just raised. Once we got out of that, we had all these heifers outside in the winter with no
trees,
no trees, no
The pregnant
nothing.
ones had the barn, just the face of the barn. You're on the south side of the barn, the old 2-story floor, and that's
Yeah.
all they had for a windbreak.
And we're way up north, we're kind of
And we had
kind
no
of backwards
pneumonia.
up there,
We got the calves in the hutches, and then the first 3-row barn, and then all the others. You could see almost to the day when those 2-year-olds start freshening. They had no. When you get pneumonia, you got scar tissue in your lungs forever, and you didn't have that. You can notice the difference when it's 90 degrees.
So yeah, and those new barns. So there is curtains in the back. I went forward. This is just so. Oh. Yep. There. Yeah. So this is open to the south, and then there's curtains that will come back down, up and down. Yep. Any other questions?
What's your overall call rate, and what's the call rate in the fish count?
What's our overall call rate? Well, we do sell some for dairy now. Before we were always buying cows, and then we went to sand. Last year we actually got to sell cows, which is pretty cool. They had to pry them on my fingers, is what they always say. But our call rate is 30% on all the cows, which is high, but that also includes dairy. And on our you're talking about our fresh cows less than 60 days of milk is about 8%. We're not fantastic. The reason probably that we're still a little high is my dry cow area is way overcrowded. So the close-up is at 80%, but the far off is way overcrowded. And that's one of our next dream things is to build a dry cow barn. But that's at least 5 years down the road because these heifer barns cost us quite a bit this year.
Do you breed them by weight or by age?
Both. I'm out there every day, and before the new barns, and we were raising them all here, I wasn't touching anything before 13 months, and now Laura's on this full potential feeding program, so these animals they're bigger, and in this new barn, I can see they're going to start getting a little fat, so I dropped it down to 12 months, but it's still on an individual basis. So smaller heifers, I wait. So.
Every day, like this morning before you came here.
I actually got a day off today, so we came down last night, but Mike was taking care of him today. So here's my assistant, Mike. So any other questions? In the back.
What age do you guys wean, and so after the huts they go right into your new barn?
After the hutches, they get weaned at 60 days. We don't wean them any earlier, even though they're on this full potential program. We don't wean them earlier. We stick the money in them. And they go to what's called our weaned barn. Do we have a picture up here? It's an old pig barn that we retrofitted, and it probably should be burned down, but we're always hurting for space. I don't know if I have a picture. I added pictures later on. Oh. Oh. So. What age are they getting there? It's about 8 months, because they go into the bedded pack that we built when we had to get out of our partner's old stuff. They're in there, so they go in the wean barn for about a month or so, and then they go up on in our bedded pack, and they're there until about 8 months.
How big is your bulk tank? It looks like as big as a semi?
But yep. I'm going through the.
Used to take more than
2 days to fill it. Yeah, we fill that every day. So.
Two of them though.
Well, that's just the milk truck coming to pick it up.
No, I thought you said when you started that you had 2 tanks sitting there. Before you, was that the new barn or what was that? No, I remember you showed something with 2 tanks.
2 tanks? I don't know. We've had this bulk tank since 2000, and when we had 300 cows, we shipped every other day. Not milking much, we barely even fill it. Now 500 cows, it gets full. Once in a while we overfill it. Then they tell me I have to sell cows, and then they start peeling my fingers again. So, yeah.
How do you keep track of your genetics kind of pool, and what kind of studying do you do on it?
Okay. Oh. The question is, how do I pick bulls, or what?
How do you keep up on it?
How do
you track it?
How do I track them? The cows or bulls or both?
I think he goes to bed with those catalogs in his room. I started breeding the cows in '74. Your predicted difference, 1,000-pound bulls would go up and down, but the butterfat and protein always stayed the same. So I never used a bull that was a minus in fat or protein. That's why we can run a Holstein cow with a 3-2 protein test. And I bred the 300 cows till about 2007 when you started breeding.
Well,
And then
2004.
since 2004, 2005, he's been taking care of it all.
About my books, so I have. Yeah, I'm kind of dorky about the genetics. Yes, I do take the books probably to my bedroom. They sit on my nightstand. Can't wait for proof day. Yeah, and then registering calves. It's I can't wait for the registration papers to come back, and then when I send the genomics out, they just came I think yesterday. So I'm in the hotel room looking at my genomics, and so we're about 75% of our breeding is to genomic bulls and about 25% to proven. It's been nice having a little bit more income to where we can, actually do some flushing. Kind of excited about doing it. I think we did like one flush here, one flush there, get some AI interest. And, just not having the money, so it took a little while, but already this year, I think I flushed probably about 8 times. So it's getting better.
I think he was kind of asking also, do you have them all on a computer and then do you log in, what bulls you breed, which cows and whatnot?
You guys are asking just about what I do. Man, I just like genetics. I don't know. Yeah, we do use dairy comp. Yeah, we have dairy comp, and so I'll make lists, of how many, cow families. Yep, we do corrective mating. We do mapping, and how do I know all this? How do I track? I don't know. I know. Like, I don't know.
Next question.
Any other questions? Sorry.
So Phil and Jack, obviously one of the things that you guys have transitioned through is both a partnership dissolution as well as generation transfer. So could you discuss some of the details on how long the process took, who helped you through those transitions, and what advice you might have for people who are transferring from one generation to the next, or dealing with partners that are challenging and have differing opinions and ideas. So could you talk about that a little bit more in depth and give some insight as to how you've made this transition successful? At least I think it's been successful. So I'll hand it back over for that.
I think you have to have a drive for dairy farming. When I made up my mind to go in 2000, There was a few people that said I shouldn't do it. We went ahead and did it.
Let's do the transition here. The transition was when your partner decides that, okay, I've lost the love of this job. You have to decide whether or not you still love this job. I got the goosebumps right now all over because it brings it back. And he loved this. And I says, golly, geez, Jack, you're old. I mean, we could bow out. We could bow out. It's close. And he said, what do? I says, I don't. And then you look at him and you know darn well that you can't bow out. If we would have bowed out, it would have killed him. So, and then we had a son who wanted, you had to know, you got to know your people. And he wanted it. He wanted it. And we look at each other and go, oh gosh. And then you got to find the people. And you got to find your banker, Don Adams, and you got to find your lawyer, George Twig, and you got to find Ralph Wesolowski, and your consultant, Dan Wenzel. And then you got to get at a table and maybe shed a few tears. Then the husband tells the wife to buck up, and and then you gotta go with it. And then you gotta start listening, and it's not all pretty, and yet you gotta be. If you love it, you can get through the ugly stuff, and you can smile.
And then you have a dad who kind of lets you take control and just go with it. And he's always been on my back, so at our back, mine and Laura's. Oh. So yeah, Laura and I are 50% owners with mom and dad. We had to thank the accountant and the lawyer, set it all up. And they just sit you down, and it takes, it takes a while, but get it all set up and start. And actually what we're probably going to be starting next is, Dad wants to eventually retire, so how's the rest of it gonna,
I think it's a long-term plan. You just can't do it in a couple of years. You got to have some little foresight, and you have to have confidence in the next generation that they can do it. And I don't know if you want to, have them work for you for a while, or just go with it or whatever. But it takes a long period of time. You just can't say you want in, you want out, or this is yours, or whatever. You have to have I can't put a timetable on it, but it takes a long time. And then we're in LLC, so I think in a couple more years I'll start backing out, and Junior will be paying me.
and the lawyer has a lot of good ideas, and your tax guy is going to tell you what you can do and can't do, part of it too. So keep those guys close. There's a question over there.
Yeah, we got five. I have 5 kids.
Couple more here.
Yeah, I got Yeah, Nikki, the oldest daughter. My son Tim. I have a son that teaches in Twin Cities, and another son that teaches in Marinette. Sometimes I'm a smart ass, and I told the kids when we put this LLC together, now you can quit your jobs in town and you can come and farm. At the end, if it goes good, fine. If it don't, you get somewhere between diddle and squat. It's probably not the right way, but it's different from the generation that went through the Depression, where every kid has to be treated exactly the same. George Twig will tell you that. It's equitable, not equal. Because you can't take these big farms, split them 5 ways. The next generation can't make it.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Are you gonna
They're gonna have to like it. I don't know. Actually, she does. Alana helps us out a lot on the farm. She helps mom feed calves. You know, if she misses a school bus on accident or whatever, then she's helped dad move cows, and she does a really good job actually. So being 12, this summer she really, before it was always like, I hate the farm, I hate the farm, and this summer I was like, whoa, somebody really likes the farm. So. Any other questions? And if
I-
any, go
I
ahead.
have a question for Laura. Laura, could you discuss your full potential feeding program in a little more detail so that people can understand how you push your calves so that I get them as 2-year-olds and they're fantastic?
My children or my calves? Okay, well, it was really hard to make that step from buying $60 milk replacer to $85 milk replacer. But once we started doing it, we saw the improvement in those calves right away. Just a healthier calf. There's little snuggle bunnies hopping out of their hutches. And so we did go to a full potential feeding program, which I believe a competitor, can you help out? Is it 20? I feed Cows Match. So
We don't hold it against her.
yeah, so it just, you know, really upping the milk replacer, upping the goodies to them as young calves. And then you'll see that right in that first 60 days. And you have that like little chunky little calf. And it seems like once she gets weaned, she just keeps on performing better, drinking more water, eating more grain. And another, what else did you want me to say about it?
You know, how much you're feeding, you know, when you wean.
Okay. I'm feeding a lot of milk replacer. I think I'm between 2¼ and 2½ pounds per day. We do have Holsteins, so if you guys have Jerseys out there, you don't feed them that much. They won't be chubby little bunnies. They might not be little bunnies anymore. And I only feed calves twice a day. My Purina guy is sitting here looking at me. He wants me really to say nice things. I have nothing bad to say about either product. Feeding on 12-hour intervals, because I am the primary calf feeder, it doesn't happen. But the consistency is the one thing that I do follow. So if I'm going to feed them in the morning at a certain time, feed them at the same time every morning, feed them at the same time every afternoon. But I have children, so I don't want to be feeding calves at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. So they might have got fed at 4 in the morning. They're going to get fed at 2:30 in the afternoon because I've got to go pick up kids. I've got to go do stuff. And it seems to work. But yeah, like I said, being consistent and getting the right feeds to them. And not every calf is going to be the same. So don't, you know, you might have a calf that thinks that, or you think that she should be able to take that gallon of milk per feeding. She might not be able to. There's a calf that might need a little more. You can see she's a big frame calf. She's always hungry. Feed her a little more. Just know that you're going to feed her a little bit more milk. She's going to back off a little on the grain, but she's going to catch up. By the time she's 60 days, she is going to be snarfing the grain, and she will not need, that rumen is good to go. You get them on your next TMR or whatever you're going to do at your particular farm, and they'll be fine.
Is there any more questions out in the crowd? She feeds Cows Match. We don't want to talk about that anymore. But in all honesty, this family has done a fantastic job with their cows. They really do care for their cows. Cows truly come first at this farm, and it's truly a pleasure for me to work with them and have them discuss their farm with you today. So sarcastic questions aside, I mean, as a cow person myself, to walk in their farm every other week and look at the big frames, the udders that are popping full of milk, and know that they love their cows as much as I love cows, it's truly, truly an honor to work with them. And I really appreciate all of you for coming and listening to their story today. They're going to be around a little bit more this afternoon, so feel free to ask them questions if you were a little gun shy. I want to thank Phil and Laura and Jack and Nancy and Alana for presenting today and sharing their story and their true love for the industry and their farm. So again, before we close, let's just give them a nice big round of applause.
And we'd also like to thank all the support that we have gotten from, there's a lot of faces in here that we know, that all our neighbors and all the people that we deal with and some of the local farmers here. You guys didn't have to drive 3 hours to get a virtual tour when you can show up. But no, we thank you for your support. And if anybody wants to stop in and visit the farm, you're more than welcome. We'll give tours. So, and thank you.